Alrighty, guys, it is Qaaman here today, and I'm bringing you a brand new segment to my channel called Sports Talk 2015. And for quite a long time, I've always wanted to introduce sports to my channel. It just was very hard because I was doing a lot of Dragon Ball stuff, I trying to do Yu Yu Hakusho stuff, and then a lot of personal stuff got in the way, but although not the majority of, my fans sub to me for sports, a good amount of them have wanted me to do discussions like Nitro and others, and I got some Ask FM questions about it today, so I decided I should do one little podcast a week. Just one, so it doesn't interfere with those who, definitely want my Dragon Ball stuff. So, in this video, I'm going to be talking about two different things. It's going to be half football and it's going to be half basketball, and the first thing I wanted to talk about for football will be the New England Patriots. And basically how I see their team moving on from their loss this week, or I should say the previous week, to the Denver Broncos. And I actually saw about 70% of that game. So I saw a myriad of things that I wanted to point out, and let's get on to this today. So the first thing I wanted to talk about is I think that the New England Patriots have had an ongoing war with the NFL this year. And if you look at the fact that they started off 10-0, although they lost their last game, this team has been motivated from top to bottom. And, a lot of sports writers are saying Tom Brady's really motivated, because of the fact that he went through this whole Deflategate thing. But when I look at the New England Patriots, and although they're not my team because they're actually the enemy of my team, I'm a Miami Dolphins fan, and they actually stopped my team from going into the playoffs almost every single year. I'm sorry, guys, I had to slip that in there. I see a team from top to bottom that's consistently playing at a high level every single week because of what Brady had to go through. Tom Brady, Bill Belichick, and the rest of that team are so motivated to win, despite the fact that, that whole Deflategate thing gave them a really bad name. And now that all that other stuff was leaked out about the New England Patriots having a cheating record, spying on teams again, all of this stuff has really been in the back of their heads, and they're using it to fire themselves up against the league. And I saw it. I mean, my team got blown out 36-7 when we went to Foxborough. So with that said, I think that's probably one of the biggest reasons to their success. Now, when you're looking at it from a football perspective, and let's just strictly talk about the offense here, you're talking about a Julian Edelman, you're talking about a Danny Amendola, you're talking about a Rob Gronkowski. You're talking about, several players on the offensive end, albeit not even counting their defensive losses that are going to significantly impact the team. Because Bill Belichick, although many people might not realize this, and James Krasnerick and I have talked about it, he's a defensive-minded coach. Now, he has done some things on the offensive end, but he was originally a defensive-minded coach. So when you look at it from that perspective, Tom Brady has kind of had his reins as the quasi go-to offensive coordinator on the field over the years. Although Belichick has had his impact, Brady has really been that offensive force, and I give him credit for that. And when you're losing literally your top three best receiving options, that's going to hurt. And although I'm hearing that Gronkowski is probably only going to be out for a small amount of time, and I'm also hearing that, Julian Edelman might come back for when they make the playoffs, because of course they're going to make the playoffs in their terrible division against my team, the Bills and the Jets. And if you look at the fact that, Amendola is set to not have also a serious injury, this is telling me that they're going to be back. And although the Patriots might not go, 15-1 or 14-2, it really doesn't matter at this point, because I've noticed one thing about football. When you're starting off undefeated, you either have one or two things that could happen. You could keep going undefeated. You could keep continuously going undefeated like the Panthers might do, or like the Colts and the Saints were starting to do in 2009. And everybody's going to be like, can they go undefeated? And then once you have that one loss, it's all over. You could lose as many games as you want now. Nobody cares. I've seen this happen all the time with teams that go undefeated for a large portion of the season. It happened to the Green Bay Packers in 2011. They went 15-1. Everybody's like, oh, they're going to go undefeated. I personally thought they were going to go undefeated because I thought Kansas City stood no chance against them that year. Kansas City was having a bad year, and I didn't think that they stood a chance to beat Green Bay considering some of the competition that Green Bay took down. But they lost, and it happens. And I do think that with a healthy New England Patriots team, although I think Denver would have still put up a fight, they would have beaten Denver. But honestly, from an unbiased fan's perspective, I think that all of this, hype about or all this concern about the New England Patriots falling down is too much in my opinion. Now, they will not be at 100%, and I do think that the time to beat them is now, especially with all of their defensive losses. But at the same time, I think that even if Gronk, Amendola, and Edelman come back at partial strength, I still think the team is good enough to win the AFC because as of right now, I don't really see much competition in the AFC. I really honestly don't. I think Dalton has had his flukes as a quarterback in the playoffs. I think that the Colts are in a big question mark right now with Hasselbeck and Andrew Luck as quarterbacks. Their division, unfortunately, has almost no competition. And the Steelers are very inconsistent. Ben plays great one week. They have injuries the other. I mean, honestly, I think that the Patriots at 70% could easily still take out the AFC. So with that said, I still think that the Patriots are the favorites to win the AFC. Now, the Super Bowl is another question, which is another topic for another day. But in terms of the Patriots being favorites to win the AFC, I still think they can. Brock Osweiler is still an unproven quarterback, and he still has a lot to go. But I will tell you this, though, about Brock really quickly. If he keeps playing at a moderately good level, because he hasn't really been playing bad, he's been playing moderately well, I could see the Broncos potentially just keeping Peyton out because honestly, Peyton was playing terrible. I had him on my fantasy team. He was garbage. I kept him in so long that I thought he was going to turn it around and it just didn't happen. So that's my first segment on my sports cast. The next thing I wanted to talk about is Kobe Bean Bryant for the Los Angeles Lakers. Now, let me just say this. I'm a Heat fan. I've seen Kobe. Kobe's been playing before I was even interested in basketball, I got interested in football in 2009. I got interested in basketball in 2004. And ever since I was watching sports, Kobe was always a dominant player. I heard about him when he was having that whole rape scandal years before, and it's kind of weird that Kobe is going to retire because it's like one of those things where you've been watching an athlete your entire life. And then, from basically the time that you were really, really young, and I'm giving an extremely big clue about my age here. I'm in my early 20s, guys. And, from the time I was really, really, really young and didn't even know much about any sport until now that I'm a college student, it's like this guy has been dominating the league. And the last 3 years have just been bad, and most of it was not his fault. He had his knee popped, his Achilles tore, he tore his rotator cuff. And you look at it like that and you say to yourself, man, this guy is seriously mortal in the basketball world. And it really helps you realize that these people aren't here to play basketball forever. And for those of you who don't know, Kobe Bryant came into the league at 17 years old. And he's 37 years old now, which means that he's played the majority of his human lifespan on Earth in the NBA. Think about that. He spent most of his life playing basketball in the NBA. And that's not count just playing basketball in general. So it's hard. And I'm not a Kobe fan. I don't think he's the the quintessential model of a team basketball player. Although I do think that Kobe is underrated as a passer. Kobe does pass the ball. Kobe's not the most selfish player that everybody tries to make him out to be. But I think sometimes he puts so much on his own shoulders to carry his team that sometimes it's like, Kobe, just take a step back. And sometimes I think, when his other teammates play well, they don't get the credit that they deserve, and he gets all the credit. Like in 2010, when they won the championship in that final game, he didn't play very well, and Pau Gasol and Metta World Peace, really carried that team to win that final game against Boston. And, it's kind of like washed away. Nobody talks about that. And, but I'm not trying to make this a thing against Kobe Bryant. I have nothing but respect for the man. He's a first ballot Hall of Famer. He's a sensational basketball player. I have nothing against him, Kobe, the man and the player, because he's great. But I think his time has come. And when you're shooting air balls on a consistent level, when you're shooting like 29-30% from the field, when you're shooting like 18-20% from the 3-point line, these are statistics that are telling me you shouldn't be on a basketball court. And Allen Iverson was one of my favorite players growing up, and he wasn't the most efficient guy. And obviously it's not just because of his size, but because of the fact that Iverson had to overshoot the ball, considering he had a lack of offensive weapons around him. And, he really didn't have much to work with. If you put a bigger supporting cast with Iverson, that would have been different. When he finally got like a good, supporting cast mate in Carmelo Anthony, he was a little bit past his prime in Denver. And honestly, if you look at it from that perspective, I mean, Carmelo, Iverson, and Kobe are kind of all the same player in a nutshell. I mean, they're all shoot first, offensive minded players. So I don't think matching two 30-point per game gunners on the same team is going to be beneficial. Same thing. If you put Kobe, Iverson, and Melo on the same team, that team would fail. And I'm not saying because they wouldn't be good, but because I don't think three people playing three different positions the same way would be beneficial to a basketball team. That's just my opinion. So going back to Kobe, I think his time has come. I think his time has been great in the NBA, but I think it's time for him to lace him up, because honestly, he's making an insane amount of money, for this Lakers squad. A lot of that money has been made with him barely playing basketball. I mean, he popped his knee, he had the Achilles. I mean, he's been missing significant portions of NBA seasons over the last 3 years. And it's like, well, what are you going to do now? And honestly, Kobe has been irrelevant from the NBA. Nobody has really feared the Lakers. The Lakers have been basically bad over the last few years. And then all these people will talk about how Kobe's scaring away free agents to come play with them. Honestly, regardless of if that's true or not, Jim Buss, making his decisions, as Stephen A. Smith always says, that's all up for interpretation. But the point I'm trying to say is that Kobe, as an individual basketball player, has definitely been shown this year that his time is up. I mean, he was saying how his legs couldn't move, and I was watching the game. Kobe literally, he just ran out of gas. He literally just does not have any more left in the tank to give. And honestly, I think that, Kobe, after his retired life, he could probably do some things to possibly help out the Lakers. He was saying he was interested in possibly getting a Lakers job, helping out the team. And I could see Kobe really making an impact. I could really see Kobe, truly doing things for the organization off the court to benefit them. But, I mean, the numbers show it. The health shows it. The team shows it. Every sign towards Kobe Bryant saying he wanted to retire is showing your time has arrived. And even though he had a great game tonight, where he played against, I believe it was the Wizards, he dropped like 34 points, I believe, if I remember correctly, looking at the score. He played well, but I mean, is he going to sustain that for the season? Everybody knows the Lakers are not going to make the playoffs. It's over. So I hope you guys enjoyed my first sports discussion on this channel. If you guys have more topics, let me know in the comment section below. And please remember to rate, comment, and subscribe. And remember, as I always say, to have a great day, guys, and I'll always try to make these around 15 minutes for you guys, a double segment every single week.